Hey Steve.
Hey Ben, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Very excited about another episode of Navigating the Future with you. Always the best time
Another
of my week.
episode. Yes, it is. It's always good fun, isn't it? Well, welcome everybody. We're going to explore how to move from talk to action in the world of all things AI, innovation, and transformation. And today we're going to dive into a big topic, how to get started with AI, overcome potentially that organizational inertia, and actually make progress, even in those risk-averse environments. We're also going to tackle how you can help leaders bring them to the table and potentially get rid of those naysayers that we always have when we are trying to bring something new into an organization. So, with that, let's jump straight into it. Are you ready, Ben?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Alrighty, let's go. So, Ben, when we think about getting started with AI in an organization, what would be the first tangible steps an organization should take when looking to introduce AI? I think especially given your experience as well, where you've operated environments where risk aversion and legacy processes dominate. What have you seen work to overcome that organizational inertia and to build that safe culture for experimentation?
Yeah, great question. I think for some clients where they're at the very beginning of the journey with generative AI, there there's often a sponsor or someone really excited about the possibilities. In a lot of cases, it's the CIO or CTO, and they will contact us. And the smallest step that those leaders take is typically to engage us for a small workshop. So, very small investment, just get their team together and explore the art of the possible. So, this is part of a broader education program that we offer, but the very first piece can be as little as half a day of your team together looking at what's possible, looking at what might apply to them, and coming up with some fun ideas and exploring the topic in a really safe environment.
Would it be fair to say that you've had success from taking that type of approach?
Absolutely. So, what I've seen is in environments where there's almost no official backing for AI as a broad topic, from that one team, one leader model, taking it into a discovery program that might involve multiple functions. For example, operations and technology working together to figure out what opportunities are there to apply the latest AI techniques to operations with technology side by side. And by running a workshop program, typically over a few weeks, those discovery programs tend have then brought buy-in. The outputs from those sessions would be presented to executives, which then give you a broader organizational understanding of the opportunity. And that
Okay.
excitement, that engagement of the teams coming up with their own ideas that are applicable to them, I've seen that start to bring organizational awareness and then buy-in to the topic.
Can you share an example of a small, low risk AI experiment that actually sparked a larger momentum for yourself in freshwater?
Yeah, I guess we've worked a lot with heavily regulated clients, so APRA regulated for super funds. And what we've noticed is if we stay in the land of learning and experimentation very clearly,
Mhm.
we can experiment safely. As soon as we step into the world of customer impact, making changes to production systems, that's a really different kettle of fish. So we've had a lot of success in creating safe to learn environments, what we call a learning lab, where it's a combination of education and access to hands on tools, but in a way that protects data, privacy, security, and other governance concerns.
Okay. So that's a good segue into actually my next question, which is just around that number one topic when any businesses are looking to bring in something like Gen AI, governance and data privacy. So as AI capabilities accelerate, does the need and obviously the need for strong governance comes along as well. What principles or frameworks do you recommend to ensure responsible AI usage? Again, especially in that heavily regulated sector that you have that experience in.
Yeah. And when you're just getting started, it's really interesting how many organizations haven't plugged the leak in their data when it comes to
Mm.
AI. So, what we see is organizations not realizing that up to 40% of their employees are using AI at work without any governance or controls. And this is terrifying in the banking or financial sector because the last thing you want is data leaking to an unapproved vendor. So what we often do is bake into our early training programs a piece of education around just how to be safe. It's like how to be safe online. Don't give away all your data. Don't give away your customers' data. It's as simple as saying either use the tools that we've approved for you to use or learn, as we teach in our training, what the terms and conditions and the things to be concerned about are. What are the risks? So there's a two-prong attack there. One is providing tools that are safe for the teams to use. That's sometimes takes time and
Yeah.
money to set up. We can provide programs to set that up for an org. And the other way is educate people in why it's important to not be the product. And by that I mean if you're not paying for something in technology, often your data becomes the product. And
Yeah.
a great example of that might be ChatGPT. That's the most popular tool that people will use. By default, even if you're paying $20 a month for ChatGPT, there's a little checkbox that's turned on that says we can use your data if we want to improve our models. And if you're an enterprise, you definitely don't want that checkbox switched on. So teaching people
No.
about the existence of that option, why they want to switch it off, or use, even better, a version of ChatGPT that's been purchased and approved by your procurement and your legal team. This kind of data privacy, data security, it starts with really fundamental things like don't go on the internet and upload all your data kind of things. But it then moves towards more deeper understanding of the risks and the options available to you.
There's been quite a lot of noise made about all of a sudden all your emails were available, etc. Now, have you helped with clients in the past with helping to put any of that documentation together or advised on what the salient points they need to be looking for?
Yeah, for some clients, we help them with their AI governance policies and
Yeah.
procedures. So often, alongside starting out with generative AI, there's the question of what tools do we use, but then there's also what governance policies do we put in place. And those often in collaboration with the chief security officer in an organization. They will have risk and compliance procedures already. And in the best cases, what we've found is it's a small addition to existing governance. So you already have existing governance around making changes to production systems in a financial services organization. So all we're doing is adding checks and balances to the existing governance procedure to allow us to safely introduce new technologies like generative AI.
Um, are there effective ways to anonymize or synthesize data for experimentation?
Yeah, actually, we've had a lot of luck with using both AI and just plain experimental platforms to take a client's, for example, branded website and anonymize it for experiments. And that's been really exciting. So the two ways I've seen that being really great is anonymizing data for testing. So taking in real data and then turning it into anonymized data. The large language models are quite good at that, and also redacting information. So a lot of clients have used LLMs to do things like removing text file numbers from the database. They're quite good at entity recognition and being able to clean out information you don't want. So the last thing you want is to have the PII, the personally identifying information, lying around in systems where you didn't need it and you didn't want it. So there's a whole use case for AI to help reduce your risk burden in terms of the toxic data you're having in your databases.
So you've been able to, in a real world environment, give a client an example of what this would look like, the AI solution inside their live working website, but in a completely safe environment.
That's right. Yeah, we built an experimentation platform that took a client's live website and dynamically injected AI functionality into it so they could experiment with the AI in their website. And more than that, we anonymized the website. We took their logo away, the text away, so it was safe then to use externally for testing. And that really unlocked experimentation. It was, I think, one of the coolest uses of proxy technology that we built, and combining it with the dynamic injection of AI functionality meant we could rapidly, every few weeks, change what we were testing and really rapidly do experimentation.
One of the things that we find, and I've found as well with anything that has AI in front of it, Gen AI, is there's always an element of, well, the C-suite need to be involved. And of course, that leads me on to the executive buy-in, which again is, we know is super important, whether it doesn't necessarily mean it's not it's AI, it's really anything that's going to have an impact in the organization. So when we think about senior leaders, they often want results without fully grasping the path to get there. In your experience, what's the most effective way to earn that executive buy-in, especially for AI, and especially when that executive or executives may be frustrated by overall the slow adoption of AI inside their organization?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. What we've noticed is that when we work across a large organization, we've worked with very large retailers, and we've worked across the executive team. What I tend to see is there's a couple of execs that are really pro onboard total buy-in. Often that will be the CEO and the CTO. We'll see both the CEO saying, I wish everyone was more on board with this. They were adopting it faster, just as you say. And the CTO is often charged with trying to figure out how to do that. Strategies include things like creating a center of excellence where you have all your AI folk in one place and you're trying to fund additional expansion and adoptions from that centralized function. And other techniques that seem to have worked quite well are, in our case, providing external coaching, mentoring, and facilitation services to the executives so that we can run strategy workshops, education workshops, and work on change management approaches within each function. If I look across 5 or 6 execs, some of them will be, we don't really understand it. What they need is education. And some of the execs will be like, oh, I can't go fast enough. Everyone in my team wants the Gen AI and I keep hitting roadblocks. Can you please come in and help us get rid of some of these obstacles? So internal, external, sometimes it's vendors. We've worked with marketing teams quite deeply where they need to do a complete review of all of their vendors to see what capabilities did their vendors have in using the latest AI techniques to make cheaper, faster campaigns, for example.
Yeah. So, I mean, what would you say is work better, the one-on-one coaching or the group sessions or a mixture of both?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for those that are ready for it, we've seen a lot of impact in the AI strategy workshops where you have the leaders of a team or a function deep dive into their use cases and look at a plan that applies to them. Off the back of that, you're getting a roadmap for using it in your function. You've got input to your plan for the next financial year. And I think that's been very high impact because leaders come away with the top 3 AI use cases that we're investing in this year, what benefits we're expecting to get for them, and some steps that we want to take to make that happen. I felt like that's a very high impact workshop. And for some executives, the one-on-ones have been great because it's a safe, private space to ask the questions you don't dare ask at work.
Yeah.
In that case, I've had execs ask questions like, if I use the AI with a question about my product strategy, will the AI suddenly learn that? And will that information be stolen? And will it then repeat it to someone else? Explaining the fundamental risks around data and what is and isn't something to be worried about has been very reassuring, I think, for an executive to have an external, independent.
And then when you think about that, is any examples of what I like to call that light bulb moment when you change that skeptic in the room's mind?
We're often asked to provide stimulus material to executives where we're doing a workshop and we're meant to explain why is generative AI relevant to your function. So one great example of that was we're in front of leaders for all the stores of a massive retailer, and we're tasked with trying to make it relevant to a very overworked, very busy team. And we started showing examples of being able to speak using voice to the AI and how quickly it could respond to questions and show information on the screen. And I could see the penny drop for these leaders of retailers that what a lot of staff end up doing is answering questions for customers on the floor. And they could suddenly see that there's a whole new customer experience available, customer support that is fast and accurate and convenient. And I think it was an aha moment that there is new opportunities here. There are totally new technologies that we've never seen before. Far cry from your IVR, press 1 for hammers, press two
Yeah.
for, the technology is so much better than what people expect. And when they see it for the first time and get to play with it in a real demonstration, I think, yeah, the penny can drop in terms of, oh, I should A, pay attention to this, but B, what can we do to support our teams at scale? And we're talking about organizations that might have 100,000 frontline staff. And
Yep.
for them, a small improvement to supporting customers on the front equals quite a lot of opportunity. Yeah.
Great. Well, look, I think of the topics we've covered off today, so how to get started, the governance, the privacy challenges, and then, of course, how do you get the C-suite and executive buy-in and the tools that you have used in the past. I think we'll call that a wrap for today. So if you're feeling stuck with AI or trying to create a culture of innovation inside your company, we hope this gave you some real-world tools and examples to move forward. On behalf of myself and Ben, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.